My family currently is hiding in the basement. They're afraid of the war. They're right next to the border with Russia, and they have a big problem right now.
Says Pavel, who's been trying to get a hold of his family in Kharkiv, Ukraine for days. Every weekend of March 2022, thousands of people use Ukrainian flags, protest in Times Square, New York City, calling for an end to the war. They are making a stand for the freedom of Ukrainian citizens currently threatened by the Russian invasion. Some posters read, "How many lives are too many? Stop funding Putler," and "I want to see my mom again." Each of them has a story to tell.
They've been waiting for about 25 hours on one of the borders and 12 hours on another border.
And you're just hoping that you're gonna call tomorrow and your family members are gonna pick up the phone.
We can sleep, we can eat, we just praying.
I'm outraged.
All we ask is for that to stop so that regular everyday people are not getting hurt.
It was on Thursday morning of February 24th, when at 4:50 a.m., Russian President Vladimir Putin announced the beginning of what he called a special military operation in Ukraine.
Its goal is the protection of people who have been subjected to abuse and genocide by the Kyiv regime for 8 years.
He referred to Ukraine's Russian separatist-backed Donbas region.
We are ready for any outcome.
17 minutes after the speech, missiles hit the country of 44 million people, Russia's neighbors. At 5:07 a.m., Russia started its attack on Ukraine. Until that moment, many still believed Putin's actions were only threats to prevent Ukraine from joining NATO. The strikes spread across central and eastern Ukraine within hours. A young Kyiv citizen who was in New York City on the day recalls how the events unfold for her.
February 24, I need to leave US, but in JFK, after security check, after boarding control, Turkish Airlines said me, like, you can't go to Ukraine because of war. They closed the sky. And it was like, what? Call my mom. My mom cried, and she said that a lot of rockets in Kiev.
Separated from her family, Anna has been stuck in the US ever since. As of March 21st, more than 3 million people have fled Ukraine, 902 civilians were killed, and 1,459 were injured, according to the UN. Ukrainian officials state, however, that thousands of civilians lost their lives. With the rapid nature of Russian bombings and troop attacks and the devastation they bring, the real number of people being killed remains unknown. Despite countries around the globe imposing sanctions on Russia and the potential national default, the Russian government continues the invasion of Ukraine. Ask the Russian at the protest this question.
Do you think a lot of people in Russia support what is happening?
I think a lot of people in younger generation, they are aware and they don't trust the government. I think the older generation, it's split. There are people who are very comforted by the current propaganda. I am existing in my bubble of friends who are share my views, so it's really hard to say.
A poll conducted by the Washington Post finds 58% of Russians support the invasion of Ukraine, possibly driven in part by the fear of Ukraine joining the NATO, historical and cultural ties between the two countries that were a part of the USSR, and extensive pro-government propaganda in Russia.
It's really difficult now being so far away and get the objective view on what is happening there.
Independent media sources in Russia are being censored and forced to shut down with the new anti-propaganda law. Western media, on the contrary, lacks the coverage of how Russians see and are affected by the isolation and economic instability the country is currently experiencing. The war in Ukraine might not be a third world war yet, but is proving to be an informational one. Regardless, protesters listed ways to support Ukraine from abroad.
Raise awareness. We can support it here, standing here, we can show the world that we don't want a war, that we support Ukraine.
There's a lot of donation websites.
To support humanitarian assistance, for sure.
Volunteer in these organizations to pack different help for Ukraine, boxes with food, medicine.
Ask for
No flies!
No flies! And support communities from Eastern Europe that are dealing with the consequences of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. In Manhattan, New York City, Alena Varova, NV Journalism.